Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Club. I'm Graham.
And I'm George.
All right, George, finally, after long last, years have passed, and Zenless Zone Zero 1.0
Wow.
is finally out. Can you believe that? We're finally
Imagine
here.
that. It's what
Oh,
what kicked off the channel.
yeah.
In a sense, right? Is what we decided to start covering way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Hard to
crazy.
believe,
Can't believe
man.
we're here.
I know, it's wild. And weirdly enough, the reception has been all over the place, which is not something I expected because at
Been
least
mixed.
yeah, at least
Yeah.
from our perspective, the game has been awesome. Like it's been a very successful launch. I've been really blown away going from I played CBT 1, 2 and a little bit of 3. I didn't want to play too much because it was so close to release. But I
Yeah.
mean, what a glow up in a lot of areas. We're going to touch on like so many things today, both our opinions and the criticism that we have and the criticism that others have had, and we have some as well. But overall, it's been an absolute freaking victory, I would say.
Yeah, I am surprised at how negative it's been. I have my
Mhm.
issues with the game as well, but I think that's just like my current tiredness with gachas. It's not something particularly with Zenless itself, rather with just the things that come with gachas, and I'll get into details later. That I'm just like, you know what? I'm not gonna force myself to go super hyper effective like I have in the last few things that I've played. I'm just gonna take it very casually, play when I want to play. Clearly, I won't get all the uh, currency to pull that I would
Right.
otherwise get. So I'm just like letting go of that. I'm just like, you know what? I'll get a character here and there if I really, really want them. But other than that, yeah, just taking it very relaxed. And I think that's for me, that's probably like the best approach to continue some sort of like long term enjoyment in the game. But as far as the
Sure.
game itself, like my criticisms, they're there, and they're direct, but they're kind of minimal. It seems like people are just hating on the game because they just legitimately don't like it, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, it's super surprising. I'm taking the opposite approach of you. I've been super hardcore about the game. I've 100%ed everything you could possibly do up to the point where I'm at. I'm level 33 right now, almost 34. So
Wow.
I'm going to be hitting the last bit of the story coming up pretty soon. Still got a ways to go to hit all of the full kind of hard soft caps. But yeah, we're trucking along. I did
Yeah.
27 reroll accounts, and that was what? That was like 15-ish minutes a pop. And
Okay.
that
Well,
was a long time, man. That was not fun. But I got Ellen, and that's all that matters to me. And I'm having a great
true.
time playing her. She's super, super fun. So, yeah.
Very
Well,
good.
I mean, I don't know. Where should we start exactly here when it comes to Zenless Zone Zero 1.0? I think the gameplay is probably the best place, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that it's too easy, and rightfully so. It kind of starts off very easy. I haven't gotten to the end game yet. I'm level 19. I don't know if you can hear my voice, but I'm a little sick, and that affected my play time a lot actually. Um, but yeah. So I'm level 19, and you said you're what, level
33,
30?
almost 34.
33? Okay, yeah. So you've gotten to the end game. So
I
what's the
really
gameplay
haven't.
like?
I
Well, not the end game. The end game for like that we can get now. Like you're in the
there's
forefront as to
yeah.
like how far we can get, I feel.
Sure. Yeah, I'm at so Shiyu Defense is the thing that you can play like at the end.
Hmm.
It's basically like the Abyss in Genshin, or I don't know what it's called in Honkai Star Rail.
No, not simulated universe. The
It's not Simulated Universe. But regardless, it doesn't really
Yeah, I
matter.
know what you're talking about. Yeah, everyone knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I've gotten the stable nodes, which is like the one-time clear stuff. I'm up to stable node 7, which is needing multi-teams, 2 teams. I only have Ellen, basically. She's like my hard carry right now. And so
Hmm.
I'm not able to get past that, which is fine. The unstable or the critical nodes, I think it is, those are the ones that reset weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it turns out to be. We don't totally know, I think. But It's been good. I mean, it's great. I hit those and they were a good challenge and I was having a lot of fun with it. Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. The funny thing about this is we've covered in CBT 1 discussion and our CBT 2 discussion, we covered this song and dance before. It's just too bad our
Yeah.
channel's so small that this doesn't get around. But like, this is how, first of all, if you played freaking any game almost, the beginning of the game is almost always easy, with the exception of like FromSoft games, which start you off with always like a super hard boss. But if you're playing like freaking
True.
any game under the sun, the beginning area, the tutorial, the first set of missions, they're all freaking easy. Of course, they're so easy. Now, gotchas are like a level even above that, because gotchas are free to play and they want to get everyone in the door as easily as possible, right? They want everyone to start playing. So not only is it going to be easy, it's going to be extra easy to get those people in the door so that they can get to the shop, they can get to the gacha, they can get to the things that are going to make the money and get them hooked, right? So I don't know, like, I don't want to dismiss criticism out of hand, but saying that the game is too easy is just, it's a non-criticism. There's really no argument there. It's the beginning of the game and it's a gacha game. You could maybe, there's been things said about like, oh, well, the game's too button mashy. At the beginning of the game, yeah, when the difficulty is easy, the game can be beaten by just button mashing, for sure. However, when you get to the later stages of the game, and it's not even like you have to go that far, if you're doing stuff that's like at level or higher in your progression to the soft caps of your levels, you're going to run into situations where you need to be playing your character properly. Yes, you can button mash your way through a lot of the story and stuff like that, but you can't button mash your way through higher difficulty fights, right? Like,
Yeah.
I bet the people who are button mashing aren't playing their character properly, right? If I could play Ellen, Ellen has a thing where if you need to get a certain amount of stacks for her through like a charge attack, and that will enhance your attacks with ice. I bet you there's a lot of people, or maybe not a lot of people with Ellen, but I bet there's a lot of people that are doing their character where they're not getting these ice stacks and they're just hitting with physical damage. And so, yeah, you can get through some basic stages at that point, no problem. You can mash your way through, no problem. But I bet you're not doing the mechanics properly on your character. I bet if you took time to read what your character does and how they work, and then you'd realize, oh, I'm not supposed to be button mashing. It's working right now, but eventually that's going to stop working, and you're going to have to engage with the mechanics of your character to pull out the DPS that you need. So
Yeah.
I just really see those as a non-argument. It's just like, yeah, okay, it's easy. Well, of course, like most games are, and gacha games especially. And yeah, it's button mashy, yeah, because it's so easy right now. But those things do not pan out long term. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's no coincidence that the first character that you play with, Ambi, the kind of quintessential tutorial character for the game, can be played button mashy, but she's not meant to be. Like, she's got hold mechanics in her kit. And you're supposed to, as you're like going through, learn like, oh, okay, I could mash A, right? I could left click, but you're not supposed to. And I do think once the game gets harder, knowing the kits of your characters and their intricacies hopefully matters. I'm assuming now that you've gotten to some of the end game stuff, you can attest to that. But yeah, if it continued button mashy all the way through, then I'd be like, yeah, well, this sucks. This is not what I wanted. But I 100% agree with what you're saying. Like, you gotta onboard people somehow. They gotta learn the mechanics somehow.
Right.
I do think there is some merit to the fact that maybe it's too easy, right? Like a common criticism that I heard, it's like, well, why do I have to invest X amount of time in the game before it gets good? And I was like trying to think about that. I'm like, did Hoyo strike the correct balance? I think this is something that time will tell. But for now, I do lean towards okay, maybe characters could have attacked more. Maybe they could have been stunned just a little bit less. Maybe we could have had more opportunities for parry or whatever, right? Because like in the beginning, it's all like, even for me, who I played CBT 2, didn't do 1 or 3, but coming back into the game, I was like, oh boy, like I remember my thoughts in CBT2, and some of the stuff remains, which is just like I click a few times and now I got to change character, and like
Right, the
all the
combo
stuff's happening.
attacks.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's just all coming in, and I'm not fully able to appreciate everything. So from a striking a correct balance perspective, I lean a little towards the, okay, you know what? There is some room for improvement. As far as like the game is button mashy and too easy, that's what I disagree with.
Sure.
It's like,
You're not doing
I
your
don't know.
character's
You said it
mechanics if
perfect.
you're button mashing just straight up.
Yeah, you're not doing your character's mechanics if you're button mashing. Maybe there's some characters, I don't know, I haven't played all of them, that literally can be button mashed, but I don't think that's generally across the board. And then two, like you said, you gotta ease people in. There's no other way around it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I agree with generally what you're saying. I think the biggest criticism can be levied against the story mode's implementation of the easy and like challenge mode. Right? There's a setting that you can flick that's like, oh, do you want to play story easy or do you want to have a challenge? Honestly, there's not a big difference between the two, and that's probably the biggest problem. They should have like upped the HP and damage for these story-based monsters when you go to the challenge mode, because like having a challenge mode and having an easy mode and having very little difference between the two defeats the whole purpose of the exercise. Right? They should have definitely tuned that up, and I hope that they do. But you know, even
and they
if
should have made in challenge mode, they should have made them harder aside from simply just enemies have more HP. They should have attacked a little bit more.
A little more
something.
aggression. Yeah. Harder to get the stun to do the combo attacks for sure. 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely some enemies later on. Like, I mean, Butcher is a great example of a difficult boss, especially like phase 2. And I'm not talking about like story Butcher. I'm talking about like you're getting into the end game Hollow Zero, Shiyu defense, that kind of stuff. Those bosses hit you really hard, and you can only tank like 3 hits from those bosses, and they're swinging like crazy, and you're pinpricking them for damage, right? Like you really have to start playing at the top of your class. And not only do you have to be dodging all of these attacks consistently, you need to be engaging with all of your mechanics of your character. So you need to be playing them correctly to get maximum damage, to get, you know, this stuff dead in a reasonable time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand where people are coming from for there, but I think over time that just doesn't really hold up. And having such a knee-jerk reaction to the beginning of the game being easy is just that's silly. That's just silly. Come on. Like,
yeah, I think what's compounds that is, and I don't know if we want to move away from this point quite yet, but I think what compounds that is the story.
True.
It's like the combination of the TVs with the just, we've criticized Hoyo on the writing. It's no different in Zenless. Thankfully, there's a skip button, but literally the 1,000 pages of text could be summarized in a paragraph. And they literally do when you skip it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, so at least there's that. That's the saving grace. But it does feel like in the very beginning, there's so much story. You go through the TV stuff, you do combat, which is literally the bread and butter and the best part of the game, for 30 seconds, and then you're out, rinse, repeat for who knows how many levels. I'm level 19. I'm still kind of in the middle of that. Thankfully, you can go in and start spending some stamina and stuff, and like getting a break from some of the monotony of the story and all that stuff. But yeah, I think if without the story and the TVs the way they are in the beginning, this too easy, too button mashy criticism probably wouldn't be as strong. I don't think.
Yeah, having played all of the beta tests, I've been through like I've been through pretty much all the story. And one thing that really struck me was as I was skipping through the story, not only can you skip all of the like interactions between characters with like a literal skip button that summarizes what's going on, but you can also go through like the conversational text outside of that just really freaking fast. Like in Hoyo games, typically it's like you gotta wait for the like most of it to finish before you can kind of click through. It's so fucking annoying, dude.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Which one of the reasons I stopped playing either Genshin or Star Rail, because the writing is just too freaking much. So being able to go through this mountain of freaking text, sometimes you click and you've clicked like 20 to 30 times for a simple conversation. And you're just like, you expected me to watch that, Hoyo? Are you insane? Or read all that? Are you nuts? So yeah.
And it's not that it's just there's a lot. It's also the fact that it's not very good.
No, it's not.
a
It's
lot
not
of just
interesting. It's meandering.
Uh-huh.
It's fucking awful. It's awful. Hoyo is one of the worst things about their games is this absolutely horrific writing that they do. It's totally awful.
100%.
When we played Grand Blue Fantasy Relink and the brevity of writing in that, that was fucking awesome. It was so refreshing to play that.
The
An
way it
anime
should
game
be.
that didn't freaking waste all your time, man. It was absolutely incredible. But
They respected your intelligence as well by not over explaining things.
yes,
That's something Hoyoverse suffers a lot from. But
yeah. So again, it's still a big problem. They still haven't fixed it. I don't know if Hoyo will ever fix this problem. I don't know if it's a writing thing
Let's
or a
hope.
translation
I don't
thing.
know.
Whatever it frickin'
Yeah.
is, I really wish that they would just frickin' stop at this point. But that's neither here nor there at this point. So what I did notice, though, is as I was skipping the story and all the conversations, the ratio of TVs to combat felt pretty good, to be totally honest. I thought it was a really, really good ratio. However, I was talking to some people in our community on our Discord, and they remarked that because they're not skipping the story, that the ratio of how much time that the non-combat stuff takes up is really bad. It's like really not good. And most people who are playing the game for the first time, which is most people, they're going through that story, and the story takes up so much time. Like I was like light speed progressing because I was skipping all of the text. Like 75% plus of your time in the story and progressing at the beginning of the game within the first days or weeks that you're playing, that's going to be text and conversational stuff. So if you're skipping that, you're getting to the TVs and the combat so much freaking faster. So initially I wanted to kind of dismiss that out of hand, but I definitely understand that perspective of like, listen, it feels like it takes a long time to do anything in this game. And that's honestly, that's a freaking Hoyo writing problem. It's absolutely exacerbated the issue of like TVs really aren't that bad. Like they've reduced the amount of TVs that you engage with by quite a bit, it feels like, and they've shortened the stuff that you do interact with, but it feels longer when you have to engage with the bloated Hoyo text at the same time. And then, you know, with the easy combat at the beginning, those combat encounters last not very long. And so it just becomes an issue overall. So I understand those criticisms. I have some sympathy for that. But honestly, I think just use the skip button. The summaries are honestly great. Like seriously, they're honestly great. Like pick and choose which cutscenes and stuff you want to read, and then just skip button the rest. And it's like, okay, is that like a proper way to engage with the story? No, I understand that that's not a proper solution. You want to engage with the story, but listen, you're dealing with Hoyo writing. When Hoyo gives you a skip button that summarizes all of the bloated text that they wrote, you freaking take those W's, man. You take those
take it and run.
Yeah, you take that and run. Because that's the best way to engage with Hoyo stuff is just like summarize it for me, baby. I don't want to spend 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah, the poor presentation of their story, aside from the cutscenes, we'll get into some of the cutscene stuff here in a
Cutscenes, character
little bit.
interactions. The character conversations look great. The emoting and stuff, fantastic. This looks great.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of the cutscenes I enjoyed like the cutscenes. But yeah, well, I'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
It is a self-made problem that Hoya has done, and it's a compounding problem, like with just kind of the stuff we just described, right? It's like one thing on top of another on top of another.
Yep.
For the TVs itself, towards the section that you're on, how much time are you spending on TVs now?
It varies. I would say the longer you get in progression on the game, the longer the TV segments can become. It's not necessarily that they will become, but at the beginning of the game, they give you TV segments that are pretty quick, right? That you can get to fast. You should be liberally using the fast forward thing. It's T on the keyboard if you're playing on mouse and keyboard on PC.
I wish you could just turn that on forever and perpetually leave it on.
Yeah.
I hit T to toggle, and every single time I go back in, I have to like hit T again.
Yes. Sorry, you have to keep toggling it. Yes. And then it stays
I wish it was
on
like
for
a
that segment.
master toggle that was just on forever.
Yeah. So if you're not using that, definitely use that. It absolutely freaking helps a lot. But
Hmm.
yeah, generally the TVs at the beginning of the game up to the first half and maybe beyond are really fast. They're really fast. They're short and sweet. I like the kind of variety that they had with it generally. I thought it was really good. As I was getting longer, like I did one that was like 20 to 30 minutes just
Oh,
recently.
wow.
But it's an
Okay.
optional, it's like optional, right? Like you didn't have to do it. It's not story based. The story ones are almost always reasonably fast. But it was like basically
Sure.
Pokemon. Like I had Bang Boo Pokemon and I like gave them moves and
Mm.
leveled them up and stuff. It was cool. Honestly, like 20, 30 minutes sounds long in the TVs, but it was literally in one little like gym arena where I just like fought people and customized some Bang Boos and like a party lineup and stuff. It was cool.
Okay.
It was really cool. Honestly, I've been impressed. I understand that the main thing is the combat, and it is for me. But honestly, I'm just continually impressed by the things that they do with the TV segments and like the either the little
Hmm.
puzzles that they make. There's some really interesting stuff when you get to the police segment of the story. They've got some kind of interesting things that they're doing there with the TVs. There's a side quest that was in CBT 2 that is literally a whole RPG game. It takes like an hour to do, but it's just like a whole RPG inside the TVs. It's crazy. You start at like level 1, you go out
Okay.
to like an open world kind of area. It's a little bit linear, but it's like it's fun. It's really cool. There's like a whole storyline and everything. By the end of it, I was super engaged. I was like, this was actually sick. It was amazing. So I understand the hesitation when it comes to the TVs, but honestly, I think if people just are open minded and they just accept the fact that this is kind of how it goes, I think a lot of people will find things that they like about the TVs, right? And they're generally short and sweet enough that they're not too intrusive. So, yeah, it gets a little bit
Yeah.
longer. Some of the commissions get longer by the end as you get later in the game, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, like the TVs are a bit of a toss up for me personally. From a meta perspective, I appreciate what the TVs are and what they're doing. They're like a good abstraction of a proxy guiding a group through a hollow. It's like kind of
Right.
like they even have like the whole like warping into the matrix kind of
Yeah.
animation, right? And I appreciate that because I'm like, oh, okay, this is how they're selling the fact that you're guiding somebody else. An external entity is guiding someone actually on the ground and stuff like that.
Yep.
The points it gets, the meta perspective points, so to speak, are somewhat diminished because at the end of the game, it's like a gacha game. So like, I'm not even like the characters that I'm playing in the story. There's like that toggle to use like story characters or use your own characters.
Yep,
I'm like,
yep.
no, I'm gonna use my own characters.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, that's kind of detracted from that a little bit. But yeah, it's that abstraction itself. As much as I can appreciate what it does, is also what I think I don't necessarily like. It feels like a tabletop game, like a board game that I'm playing. But it doesn't. I don't know. The appeal for me in board games and like tabletop games, stuff like that, it's like what my imagination can conjure up is better than anything that can be presented to me visually.
Okay.
However, for some reason I can't achieve that in the TVs section, in the section with the TVs. I don't imagine myself going through the hollows like I would if I
Right.
was like literally on a table, right? It's
Sure.
more so I just see a little character moving about on a screen.
Right.
And it's the abstraction that hurts it and also helps it on two different fronts. It helps it on like a meta side, and I think it hurts it for me on like a gameplay sense.
An
if that
immersion
kind of makes sense.
side.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I don't really feel like it's me and my group of people going through the hollow. It's just I'm moving a little thing on the screen around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's some missions that feel more hollow-like, but for the most part, I do generally agree. It feels more game-like, more meta in that way.
Yeah.
This was a criticism we levied in CBT2 as well about the TVs. Like they don't do enough to kind of like the TVs, you have like your area that you can go in the TVs, and then you have like the lowered TVs where they're just like the background, the walls
Mm-hmm.
essentially, right? And they should be customizing that set, like either make them not TVs or put something on those TVs to make it feel like you're in the area. Like if you were in a
Yeah.
snowy hollow, like have those TVs showing snow, or just have snow around those areas so it's not a bunch of TVs in the background. They need to do something to make it feel more thematic to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because like right now it does not feel like you're in the hollow. It feels like you're in TV land, right? And so
Yeah.
they need to do some better ways of conveying that from a thematic perspective, and I think it'll sell it much better. I don't know if it'll be enough. We'll have to see, if it ever comes to that. But I do agree, generally, from a theming immersion perspective, it doesn't feel like you're in a hollow. It just feels like you're dealing with
Just
TV metagame.
just a thing on the screen, right? Yeah. And so that's what's like hurt my enjoyment of the TVs. I hope this is something that gets better, and it doesn't seem like it'd be too difficult to like portray something in those other TVs, right?
100%.
Just to make it sell all that stuff. As far as like the navigation and everything, that I've heard a lot of complaints about that. For me personally, I don't necessarily like mind it. It's not, I don't particularly enjoy it, but it's just like whatever, right? I'm just, all right, I'll just go through the motions. I don't dislike it. I'm not gonna like give it praise because it's not like a thing I love either, but it's fine. If this is something, I heard that this has been like a deal breaker for some people, and yeah, if the TVs are a deal breaker, this is like a core aspect of the game. And Zenless is just not for you. That's totally okay. But
Right.
it's a thing I think people need to just kind of come to terms with. If you don't like it, it sucks, but you can't please everyone, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just,
for sure.
it is what it
Yeah,
is.
I understand. Like, this game was never going to be an open world, but when it comes to engaging with the content in another way, I can understand people being disappointed that TVs is the route that they went. Again, like I said, I think if people give it a chance, from a gameplay perspective, I think it's fine, and I think it works pretty well. But, people will have to make that decision for themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, the music is pretty good. I would
Music's
say,
good.
generally, except for that
Music's
one
great.
freaking song. The freaking
Day and another day.
one day
And
and
the day
another
after
day.
day.
I got a shabby shirt and blah blah blah. That's the freaking worst song I've ever heard in my life. Holy frick. But generally, I think the music has been really good. There's really not much that can be touched on that. It's just pretty solid across the front. There's a couple songs that are not great, and there's a couple songs that are exceptional, but generally it's fine.
Yeah.
Gameplay being too simple. We've kind of touched on this before. We actually have a video on our channel related to how Ellen plays, and if the gameplay of Zenless Zone Zero is too simple, I really, really encourage people to check that video out.
We'll link it in the description.
Yeah, we can
We'll
link
put
it in the
down there.
description. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like that video, what someone in our community just told me just recently that they used that video to convince someone that had just played the game and dropped it, and then said,
Okay.
"Oh, the game's too simple, the game's too easy, the game is going to be too boring." Then they showed them that video and said, "Well, what do you think of this?"
Nice.
Yeah, and I was
That's
like,
awesome.
"Oh, that's sick, awesome." But it really made
Yeah.
me like I kind of almost forgot about that we made that video, but it really made me think like the game's not too simple and easy. And isn't this the same fucking conversation that we had with Honkai Star Rail? Like, we literally had a conversation, you and I, about if Honkai Star Rail was going to be too easy or not before it came out. And we said that it's not going to be too easy. They have a good foundation to build upon, and they're going to augment this system that they have now with the characters and interesting mechanics. Well, lo and behold, everyone's having a whirl of a time with frickin' Honkai Star Rail. Zenless Zone Zero is going to be the exact same way. They have an incredible combat system to have as a baseline, and they're going to augment this freaking system in really cool ways with the characters that they have. They have a extremely robust boss like setup, just like how they design bosses. Butcher is a freaking amazing fight. I haven't fought the revised and polished new Purple Hollow boss yet, but I'll get there eventually. I'm sure that boss is fantastic. And there's another boss of that caliber that I don't even know anything about yet. So I think it's going to be absolutely, totally fine. People worried about this in Honkai Star Rail, and it
They
became a
did.
non-issue, and
It
we
was,
knew it.
yeah,
we
we
called
had
it. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing here. This is a non-issue. Don't worry about it. It's going to resolve itself over time. And
Same
there's already
thing.
characters in the game that are really engaging to play right now, like Ellen, which a
Yeah.
lot of people don't
Yeah.
have, to be fair. But there are other characters that are engaging. I know there's like, basic characters like Nekomata is all about perfect dodging and then getting bonus damage from that. And, Piper is like a spin to win character, but you have to do like Piper's a good example. If you have Piper's EX special, that's when you have enough juice to do like the powered up special, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can just spin with her right away. And after she spins for a little bit, she starts gaining spin stacks up to 20, and then she does a finisher. Now, you could just click that button, but if you do a 1-2-3 combo and then go into the spin, it starts accumulating stacks right away, and then instead of having to wait 3 to or so seconds to start accumulating stacks. Like, yeah, you can button mash, and that'll get you a certain distance, but eventually you're going to start needing to know what the frick you're doing with your characters if you're going to want to progress any. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny because it's a little bit tangential, but it reminded me of a similar conversation in Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, when people were asking for gameplay differences and changes for the character that they had. But the answer that the devs provided was like, you want different kind of gameplay, play a different character.
Yes.
And this is kind of, you want different complexity, you want more complexity, different things, etc., etc. More characters are going to come that are going to augment the baseline that's already been set.
Exactly.
Now, this is a gacha game. You're not going to get every character you want. Well, potentially you're not going to get every character you want, most likely. And there's, pros and cons to that we don't necessarily need to get into, but that's the answer, right?
Sure.
The answer is more characters.
That's right.
And that's just the way the game is. So
that's right. And it's been working great for Honkai Star Rail. It's going to work wonderful for Zenless Zone Zero. I'm so excited for all the characters they got cooking. They've been teasing so many. Yeah, so it's understandable. That's kind of the route they're going. So I know you wanted to talk about the cutscenes and the animation in the cutscenes.
Yes. We
have a cutscene playing right here, actually, right now. This cutscene is fucking incredible. I don't know if you've seen this Ellen cinematic.
I saw the Ellen thing. Yeah, it's not too bad.
I mean, you can see right here. It looks fucking fantastic.
Yes.
But there are cutscenes in the game that have what can only be described as total freaking spastic animation. And
yes. Are the Belobog cutscenes still like that?
They're exactly the same as they were in CBT2.
Okay. All right. So that was one of the things I was trying to get to it. I was like, all right, has anything changed? Because like the game starts right here, right here. I'm trying to look at the camera where I am. Like right here, they're pretty grounded, but they still got that like anime flair, right?
Yes.
They're showy, they're cool.
Stretch and squish. The animation principles, they're doing rubber hose a little bit. It's good. It feels nice, fluid, lively.
But at the overall, I would say this is a grounded cutscene. And they stay pretty grounded for most of the time. Once Nekomata is introduced, you start to see a bit of an uptick. And it starts going up, and in CBT2, you go straight from there to kind of the Belobog story. Right. And it takes another huge, it ends here, and then again, it takes another drastic switch. Yep. And I remember thinking to myself back then, I'm like, who in the ADD is the target audience for this game, man? Like, holy crap, they look so bad. And then I saw, before the game came out, a promotional tweet for... what's the Bang Boo currency? I forget what it's called, but it's a billion... Boopon, yeah, it was a Boopon promo kind of thing with Billy and Nicole.
Billy and Nicole, yes.
And it was Belobog spaz times 1,000. I was like, bro, if the cutscenes going forward in the game are like this, I will literally quit it. It is so irritating for me to watch that it was literally a deal breaker. I was like, I can't take a game that has a story like this.
Yeah.
But then you come to the Hollow Zero cutscene with Anby, and it goes back to kind of the same grounded
Hollow Zero
level.
with Miyabi, you mean?
Or Miyabi. Yeah, what did I say? Yeah, Ambi. I
Ambi,
meant
you said
Miyabi.
Ambi, yeah.
Yes, Miyabi. The
Not to
Hollow
give
Zero.
too much away about that cutscene for those who haven't gotten it. There is a cutscene
True,
with
true.
Miyabi at some point.
Yes, at some point. But it goes back to the same level of groundedness that the
Yes.
game started with. And so this is what I wanted to ask you. These later cutscenes in the game, how are they? Do they continue with the spaz attack, or is it more of a rounded take?
Let me take a couple of steps back before I answer that question to give some context for anyone listening. We're not saying that the animations shouldn't be fun and lively and fluid and stuff like that. Like this cutscene that's playing right here, this is great. This is good stuff. There's lots of quickness. There's lots of animation. It looks wonderful. It's specifically the schizo level, over the top, super freaking fast, over animated stuff that's the problem. I actually got there was a lot of people who were really upset that I mentioned this on Reddit, but I mean, go figure. And people were upset, but because they're like, oh, well, they're just using the animation principles, stretch and squash and rubber hose and stuff. Listen, just because you use those principles doesn't mean you're using them correctly. You can over animate. I'm a voice actor, and I do professional voice acting in Japan. I also do some on-camera work as well. There is absolutely such a thing as overacting in both voice acting and acting itself. And there is absolutely a thing as over animating something as well. It's just going way too, like, almost uncanny. It's like uncanniness. You know, like you have images of like uncanny characters. It's like that, but
like
for
the
animation.
Uncanny Valley. Yes.
It's the uncanny valley of animation. And it's just, it comes off very amateur-esque. It's like, if you don't know how to make a good fluid animation that looks like it, like real life but elevated, you go well beyond that. You don't know the restraint, and you go too far, and you just make it just over the top.
And it looks
like a mess.
Looks sloppy. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks sloppy.
100%.
So there's cutscenes. So basically, they started very reserved, and then as they got more comfortable, they kind of went too overboard. And in the middle of the story, the Bellabog kind of area, you're gonna find these like freaking awful over animated segments. Those are totally still there. However,
oh boy,
I haven't gotten to the last bit of the story yet to see what those cutscenes are like. However, I know that the Hollow Zero, I don't know, if I could guess, the Hollow Zero cutscenes, the cinematics there, I think are newer, and I think they're a closer indication of what the cutscenes are going to be like for the newer cutscenes going forward. I mean, there's been some B-roll footage playing down there, and I think that footage that was playing with the cutscenes, those kind of cinematics, those are also really similar to the Hollow Zero cinematic. And I think all of those are indication of where they're headed. They kind of got reeled in a little bit. They're still animated, they're still fun, they're still lively, but they're not so freaking schizo. And so I think that's what we can look forward to when we get to the later ends of the story, as we move past these kind of crazy animated stuff. I don't know what would happen in that Twitter promotion video, if that's like an old video or what.
Like, it seems like it might have been, or hopefully at least
that's the case. But that's definitely, it was a problem for me. It's obviously a really big problem for you if it kind of breaks.
Yeah, I would have quit. That would have been a breaking point, 100%.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, why it triggers me so bad, dude. My sensitivity threshold for stuff like that is like 0. There's something about that that just irritates me so bad. It legitimate, like I usually can just let things go, but that is like a thing that I'm just like, nope. Now I am angry because I saw that cutscene, like legitimately.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's the Weeb and Normie dynamic we have on the other channel we do, the Anime Club, that's coming out there. So it doesn't bother me to that extent, but it's certainly not enjoyable to look at. It's certainly not great. I want to see like quality stuff, and like the Hollow Zero stuff and the stuff they've been releasing for promo material is so incredible. We need more of that. So yeah,
nice. Okay, well, that's good.
That covers a lot of that stuff. Is there anything else we want to hit, George? Any specific criticisms that people have been saying that we want to cover?
I'm trying to think if there's anything we missed, because we talk about the TVs, the combat kind of being too easy. How long does it take to get good? So we've kind of addressed all that. I think that's it. I think those are like the main things that people are kind of complaining about.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's lots of little things here and there that we might have missed, but like this is generally our thoughts. I think the biggest thing for me is going from CBT2 because I only played a little bit of CBT3. I was really impressed. Oh, that's what it is. Is people are saying that there's not a lot of stuff to do in the game. I don't necessarily, maybe it's because I'm so used to the content offerings in CBT2, but I feel like there's a bunch of stuff to do. I've been busy for like a couple of days at least, and maybe people will balk at that and, oh, a couple of days and you ran out of stuff. It's like, yeah, but I mean, this is the same song and dance that we did in Genshin even, and now in Honkai Star Rail, and now in freaking Zenless Zone Zero. These are not games that are like 100-hour RPGs. They were never intended to be that. They're never intended to be a game that you play consistently all the time forever. These are called companion games. They're lifelong games. They're games that are meant to be played in the long term. They're not supposed to be the main game that you play. They're supposed to be companion games that you play, and they're literally made so that they don't take up that main game slot because they don't want to compete with the other games in that space. Because if you're competing for the space of main game, there's always a chance that another game's going to come and push you out. Or if a new game comes out, like Elden Ring comes out, and you have to stop playing Zenless to play Elden Ring, there's a chance you don't come back. They don't want to be in that situation. Hoyo wants to have games that sit comfortably on the side and are with you forever. They want you playing these games for years that you can comfortably do long term. The dailies in Zenless Zone Zero are, no joke, 30 seconds long. Like, it's crazy. The weeklies are 2 minutes long. They're crazy easy to do. And that just goes to show exactly kind of what I'm saying is they want you to play this game long term. They don't want you to feel fatigued. They want you to have stuff to do, yes. But honestly, I was very happy with the content offering that they've had so far. They've got like the end game stuff with the Abyss type thing where it's the weekly reset or bi-weekly reset. They've got weekly bosses. They've removed all the stamina from the story, which was no surprise. We knew that was coming. And stuff like that. Like, honestly, I think it's been really good. I've been very happy with it. There's lots of little things to do, lots of little collectibles and side quests and stuff like that. So honestly, I'm having a great time with it. I can understand that people wanted this to be a main game, but Hoyo games and Gacha games in general are almost never a main game. So
yeah, it's so funny that we're having this conversation again.
It's like so much, like it's like deja vu to Honkai Star Rail. This like whole situation with this criticism,
and a lot of it to Genshin too. Like a lot of it is stuff, and I don't know. Yeah, you're a gacha. It's a gacha game. You should by now know, unless this is like your very first gacha game, in which case,
how do people not know at this point?
Gacha games
with Genshin, it was like there was a lot of people who never played gachas before, and they were really confused because like Breath of the Wild had come out before then, so they were like really confused that they ran out of stuff to do in a couple of days. That was like understandable. Honkai Star Rail came along. Maybe they thought it was going to be like a 60 to 100 hour epic RPG, and that shocked some people. Maybe. Okay. But at this point, we're at the third round here with Hoyo games. How are people complaining about this? Like, are you serious? Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, and it's the gacha game pros and cons, right? Like that we've kind of talked about.
Yeah.
Where I am personally right now with just my desires, my time, all sorts of things. Like, I understand that people want, a game that you play and then you're done with, right? Like that's the games that I'm kind of leaning towards more. I'm like, I want to hop from main game to main game to main game. And I understand that Zenless isn't that. And I don't hold anything against the game because it's not what I particularly might want. Like, it is what it is. The things that I'm really disliking right now about kind of the gacha model is the and this is why, well, not so much anymore. That's why I said I kind of had like a big like internal letting go, because I hate wasting resources in gacha games
Yes.
especially
Well, they're very
stamina.
much they're very much resource management games, so it makes sense.
Yes, yeah, and it's the like the number one resource is your stamina because that's how you can get stuff to pull new characters.
Yep.
It's mainly the main way, and how you're also able to level up characters and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, I reached today. Not necessarily today, but just like on any given day, you won't be able to continue grinding. And I'm just like, I want to keep grinding so I can like get this character like all the way set, but I can't. I'm locked by the game. That's got its pros and cons. Currently, it's not what I want. I want to be like, all right, I got my soldier 11. She's 100% leveled up. Now I can just step back and just be done. But I can't. And it's fine. It's not a fault of the game. It's just what I can't. It's something that I wanted to do that I can't do. The other thing is the whole thing of like letting stamina go to waste. That was a big thing for me. I was like, oh man, I can't do that. And it was like a mental burden on me. And especially in Star Rail. And that's why I quit. Like it was easy to keep up with, but just a constant thing of like, wait, has it been 24 hours? I can't remember. Oh, frick, I should get on.
So you're basically admitting that you're a big casual now.
100%. Oh, I'm going 100% casual all the way, dude.
Sure.
Casuals rise up, man.
All right. Well, you can represent those people, I guess. I'll represent the hardcore people because I'm a hashtag never cap gang. So
yeah, I'm gonna cap and I'm gonna like play 2-3 times a week, and then if I don't want to log in the next day. So be it, right?
Don't tell our viewers that, George. What are you doing?
And it's just where I am. But I don't fault the game for it. It's the genre. It's the type of game that it is, and I'll engage with it how I want. I don't have a need for every game to cater to my every whim and fancy. So
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with the mentality of like, I hate in Hoyo games and gachas in general, getting characters and then not being able to build them up for weeks, sometimes months, depending on your luck with like relics and stuff like that and artifacts.
Yes.
It's just like, listen, I agree. I think that there should be some mechanism to get these characters built up faster. I think the amount of time that it takes to build these characters up is unacceptable. I think it needs to be way, way faster and way more consistent. And honestly, it's the reason I quit Honkai Star Rail. I was playing that game for over a year, and I was freaking sick of it. I was sick of getting a character and then not having the ability to use them for potentially weeks. And it's like, well, why don't you pre-farm? It's like, well, because I was already farming for the previous character that I got that I was trying to get built up. It's like, it's exactly. Ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. So I really would like some options, or at least some way for them to fix that. I understand that we can't make all the progress all the time, but at least like if you want to gate us with like proxy levels or account levels, or you want to gate us with the story, fine, for sure, go ahead, do that, no problem. But please stop gating us when it comes to getting characters prepped and ready to play. Like that's the bulk, at least for me, that's the primary engagement factor for me, is getting these new characters and playing with them. And if I'm getting characters that I can't play with, it's what happened with Honkai Star Rail. I started asking myself, what's the point exactly? I'm getting all these characters that I want to use, but I can't for weeks and months. So what am I doing here? Why am I playing the events? Why am I playing the story to get this currency? Because I don't care about the story personally. I think all of the stories have been very mediocre. And so it's like, listen, like, why am I doing this if the gameplay is being cut off from me and limited? Now, that's the biggest problem that I have. I can push past that to a degree. I hope I don't get to that point with Zenless. I hope that either they find a better balance, or it just kind of never comes to that or whatnot. But yeah, I don't know.
The relic grind.
I can sympathize with what you're saying.
Unreal.
Yeah.
The relic grind was another thing that was just awful. Yeah. It was the same thing in Genshin too. It took forever to like finally get some of the stuff that I wanted, and it's not like you could never use them. It's just that if you wanted to min-max the character, which is part of the satisfaction, it's like, well, I wanted to pull for this character, and I want to make them the best they could be. And in any other type of game, I wouldn't be artificially gated by the type of RNG that exists in the relic system.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of mental letting go And we'll just see how long I stick with it, right? And there'll probably be phases where I'm more hardcore. And I could go like a couple weeks streak of not capping, and then I'll quit for a week. Who knows, right? Like, who knows how it'll be?
Yeah, it's fine to take breaks. I mean, we know one person in our community is hardcore about gachas. That he's got like 3 to 4 gachas going at any given moment. But he'll also take breaks from random gachas, and you know he's as hardcore as a person I know when it comes to playing gacha games. But even he's taking like breaks at a time for stuff. So it's fine. It's fine to do that. I mean, I won't do that because I'm not freaking casual. But I'm only playing Zenless Zone Zero, right? Like I dropped Honkai Star Rail like 3-4 months ago. So, you know, and I think Honkai Star Rail is a great game. I think it's wonderful. It's just that one aspect really, really killed it for me. And the having a low limit on how many artifacts or relics that I could hold, so that like if I wanted to keep grinding, I had to like now sift through all of the other things because I didn't want to delete things that I could maybe use on other characters that weren't built yet. And it's just like, I don't have time. I don't want to make these spreadsheets. I don't want to do all this figuring out. This is fucking way too much work. Just let me.
I don't understand why it's so small. It should be triple the size of relics.
You know, it is actually double the size. It's 3,000 in Zenless that you can hold. Okay. Which I mean, we'll just hold off the inevitable for now, but eventually I'm worried that I'm going to get to that point. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Honestly, I could push through it because the gameplay is so good in Zenless and the bosses are so fun and stuff. So maybe I'll make exceptions here or there and I'll just push through, but we'll have to see. But it's been really good. Overall, the impressions of the game are fantastic. They released this actually right here. They released that lore teaser just recently, which seems super cool. It seems like the story stuff that's happening right now is like the happy, fun, casual slice of life kind of stuff, getting to know the characters. And it seems like at some point we're going to get pretty serious in the story, which is fucking awesome. Sounds cool.
Yep, and we'll watch it all through cutscenes and skip buttons because as cool as it'll be
you'll overwrite it to death, baby. Yeah,
yes,
no
exactly.
Doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think it was a great discussion. I understand some of the criticisms of the game. I don't necessarily understand the hate.
Yeah, 100%.
But you know, people like what they like. If this isn't for you, that's totally fine.
Yep,
is what it is.
Sayonara.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Zenless Zone Zero. It's got stuff cooking. It's gonna be here for a while, and I'm really honestly, as much as I dislike a lot of the gacha stuff, I am honestly looking forward to the future of the game.
Nice.
So yeah, honestly can say that. But
I actually like if I can say, I actually like the fact that it's a gacha because it has consistent content coming out and consistent characters coming out. I think that's a huge boon to a live service long-term game. I personally think it's fantastic. I'm a lucky mofo though, so I'm a little bit biased when it comes to that. I'm like insanely lucky that like I get.
To be fair though, Hoyo gachas are pretty fair. Like
I think the Hoyo gachas are super fair. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
you can get the guy. Yeah, you can get the game that you or the character you want as long as you plan accordingly. For a casual like me, a filthy casual, it's going to be harder than most. But you know, it is what it is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your outro there, George. Go ahead and send us away.
No, that's all I had to say. And hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time.
Everybody,
take care.